good morning, and welcome to another edition of XFeed. What's up? My name's The Schiller, and the title of the day. Listen, I'm trying to think of like accurate titles based off of the news that we have every day. And multi-chain future, which we're going to go over, focus on coins over NFTs, which is going to be the first thing we go over, and the narrative push. This is something that is kind of obvious when you look back and you see all of the happenings per se, but we'll see if you actually agree with my thesis here. But thank you so much for tuning in. So Daniel Got Hits highlighted this video from the Bitcoin conference. You got Michael Saylor and a whole bunch of notable individuals, and then Steve Aoki. Now, Steve Aoki is a world famous DJ, and he was at events before showing off his phone with the doodles, and he was just somebody that bought a lot of NFTs and then ended up becoming a meme because if Steve Aoki bought that, seemingly trended the downfall and or top of a certain collection. But what's interesting about this, in my opinion, is the fact that this guy was, I wouldn't say the face of NFTs because that is not correct and even like a sliver, but a lot of people would say, excuse me, all right, that guy is a big notable player within the NFT space, trying to push it forward. And then he sold out of pretty much all of his NFTs. And now they're at the Bitcoin conference and they've become a coin maxi. This is something to watch because as I've started trying to percolate these theses, depending on how crypto performs, depending on how these different collections do, as we've seen massive shutdowns from games, to just basic avatars of sorts, to stuff just not happening. I don't know. I think there could be a big shift coming, but we will ultimately see. One of the craziest videos from Bitcoin 2025 is this. So James Howells, they lost 8,000 Bitcoin by throwing out, I don't know if it was a hard drive, if it was a ledger, or what. And this is their plan to make it back. And it's interesting.
The next plan is we'll be buying the landfill from them,
Yes.
whether they like it or not. We're going to make them an offer they can't refuse. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to tokenize a portion of the hard drive coins, 1,675 coins, which is 21%. I'm going to offer those as ordinals to the public. I'm going to raise approximately $75 million via that tokenization project, and my plan is to buy the landfill outright from Newport City Council so that I no longer have to beg for permission.
That is not gonna happen at all. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe there's a narrative that grows around this that people are like, oh, this is great. But when we talk about narratives within the space, do you think, all right, people are gonna go and support somebody who ended up, losing all this Bitcoin that's in a landfill, and several years later they're trying to buy the friggin' landfill to be able to go through it? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to end up flying or that many people are going to want to be a part of it. So back to the token conversation. Vivo Power International raises $121 million to build XRP-based digital treasury. So we have all the Bitcoin ones going on. We have Ethereum starting to percolate, and now we got XRP in the mix. And I don't think this is the first one by any means, but I'm just saying we're having more and more of a focus specifically on these tokens and ecosystems around it. But then you have the question again, do you do like Steve Aoki where you buy the NFTs originally, or do you just become a token maxi of sorts? And Cosmo D Meta C saying XRP NFTs, similar to how we had Xcopy shilling cryptodes the other day and everybody else talking about different collections. Everybody's going to find a home, and it's just a big old fest on that one. Matt Bartlett posting this morning, and it was a highlight of what actual animals cost versus their digital counterparts. So $500 to $20,000 for a penguin, $26,000 for a pudgy penguin, $36,000 for a bored ape, or you can get a monkey for upwards of like $8,000, and then you just have a toad, which relatively inexpensive, $29 to $150 or $2,000. Which I went to look though, and back in the day, 16,000 was the floor for cryptodes. So you can say, if you weren't back when cryptodes first came out, of like, oh my God, that's, fairly expensive, $2,000 for this. But at one point it was, almost 10x what that was. Big news coming out of Avalanche. $240 billion in real estate is coming on chain. Balcony Tech is working with Bergen County and multiple other New Jersey municipalities to digitize property records, and it's powered by Avalanche. This is the largest blockchain deed initiative in U.S. history. So, talking about 2025 having some big happenings for tokenization, well, there you go. And everybody having some kind of digital currency. Sure, maybe it's not crypto, but everybody's getting into it. And is there a point where consumers say, you know what, we want this on chain for transparency of sorts? But Discord introducing a digital currency called orbs. They can be earned by interacting with ads and can be used to buy Nitro subscriptions. Now, this was something that Twitch did for a while, the streaming platform, where you were able to watch ads, get points, donate a couple of bits to streamers. Not crazy. But I mean, for like the Nitro subscriptions, I don't know how popular those are. Like, Discord's really awesome, and the perks for having Nitro are like kind of all right, and same with the boosters and everything. But I'm surprised Discord hasn't been able to like iterate or make like the experience even better for people that want to pay more for the platform. The first persistent state of Other Side experiences, which again is Yuga's big metaverse plot land game environment, is set to launch in late June or early July. So anybody that's building a metaverse out there, get ready for late June and early July, because that's when the competition is going to heat up. We're going to see Other Side come out, and then we'll see what other players have in store to be able to respond to that, if anything out there does exist, or if Yuga ends up just taking the cake again. Yuga's had a very wishy-washy reputation over the last little bit. I think people that own Bored Apes love it, and they'll, just always be that. But I'm curious how this works for actually gauging interest or attracting other people to come and play within their game. We'll see what the different things they do are when that happens. Also for Codas, so these were a collection that was a part of the land sale, and the claims for people that had the Bored Apes or the Mutant Apes. And so of these like 100,000 plots of land, there were 10,000 of them that each had a coda, which is this new character and supposed to be one of the faces or cool things within it. So the perks, apparently for codas, it'll be a flex. So we're trying to go back to that area where it felt like things weren't really a flex. It was all based off the speculation and the value proposition. Coda only access areas in the Nexus. Okay. Code is the alpha for Bathroom Blitz, which is just kind of like a first-person shooter game. It looks quite interesting. And more in-game utility coming right around the corner, right around the time when deeds and resources come into play. So something to watch. But I guess ultimately, like, the point with this is there was a lot of speculation around things. When it first came out, similar to cryptodes, these things were going for huge amounts of money. And then when the actual utility are figuring out, all right, this is exactly what you get, does that match the previous speculation, or what are people going to ultimately think about it? Venice users generated over 1 million images in the past 48 hours, and daily generation is up 200% over the past 3 months. So if you're somebody that uses ChatGPT, if you're somebody that uses Grok, if you're somebody that uses Microsoft Copilot, any of the different AI platforms out there, you might not have heard about Venice, or maybe you have, but this is actually a Web3 variation where I can say, what time is it in, I don't know, England right now? And I spelled England wrong. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And this is exactly like any of those other platforms where they just pop out. Yo, JJ Kaneje, top of the morning to you as well. As of right now, it is 10:24 a.m. in England. During this time of year, England observes British summertime, which is UTC +1. What is the weather forecast forecast? Yeah, there we go. For Tanzania tomorrow, and we spelled Tanzania wrong. This is great, right? We'll see if this pops up. But anyway, you basically get the idea. It's the same thing where you can end up asking for image prompts. You can do whatever. Tomorrow in Tanzania, the weather will be hotter than today, with the maximum temperatures reaching around 28 degrees Celsius. Right? And so again, if you're just wanting something different, it's Venice.ai, and you can just try it out and see if you like it. This is yeah, I don't know. Bruh. So we've talked a little bit about how all these teams are pivoting to Ronin and then ended up kind of extracting liquidity and then just like shutting down. And I kind of made the reference of like it felt like that is what happened with Blast when Blast got really, really hot, like a year ago or whenever it was. And so I saw this on my timeline, which is from the Blast forum that says total value locked, reallocation to Hyperliquid Vault. We propose bridging a significant portion of Blast Network's TVL to Hyperliquid's hyperliquidity provider Vault, which would basically move it away from Blast. And so the comments end up kind of like shredding it and saying like the native yield has to come from somewhere. And I just think it's kind of funny because it's like, man, I mean, maybe it's a good move. I have no idea. I don't want to like necessarily like remon it per se, but it is just funny that you're like, hey, we have all this TVL. Let's move it over to this new platform. And honestly, it really kind of highlights the fact of just everything within the space is needing to pivot, transact, focus on something all over the place compared to what they originally started with. So many AI chatbots these days. Yeah, it's kind of nuts. I'm going to keep saying this, and I don't want to always repeat myself, but it's been awful just to read comments on X nowadays. A lot of the other platforms haven't been affected, but just like everybody responding to something being like, at Grok explain. I mean, even on this, could we have that one? No, it's not the first two on there, but it's at. Okay, so EA Games, obviously big sports creators, massive video game engine, whatever, right? They said they're focusing on Battlefield, The Sims, Skate, and Apex Legends. Phenomenal. But the big headline on this is that there's not going to be a Star Wars Battlefront 3, at least made by them. So the question is, does somebody in Web3 have the capital and the resources to end up making this game? Because if you take Star Wars Battlefront and you would put that on blockchain rails, oh my God, talk about mass adoption of some sort. I don't care if people got the hate around it. It doesn't matter. People would go out and play that because that genre, that franchise is huge. It's huge. And if EA isn't doing that, I mean, would they sell it to somebody else? So this is ultimately the question. Do we see any sort of Web3 connection with that at some point, or does Battlefront 3 just never come out for several years and we kind of go from there? Have you heard of World.org, co-founded by Sam Altman? Scan your iris for proof of humanness. I don't know if it's the exact same thing, but I saw somebody post that there was a different one or the same one that you could also give like a fingerprint scan or your palm scan to be eligible for it. But the real question with that, right, is we have the negativity of, oh, they're going to use our data and farm it. And I don't even know if like that's something that people like, people care about it to like a point, but also a lot of the times I think people don't. But what I think people care about, and similar to me complaining about the fact that everything's AI, how can you prove that people are humans when we're moving forward? And we're going to have to verify that aspect. So that's one way of verifying it. All right. And so is it creepy to do that? Or is it, hey, this is what we have to do because AI is becoming so massive? And there was a post earlier. I don't know if I saved it. I don't think I did for this one. Maybe I'll bring it up tomorrow. But it was talking about NVIDIA and Musk. And the thread was basically alluding to the fact of like there's a partnership between the pair, and the intention is all of these offerings from like actual robots to AI agents to all of this kind of stuff. And I just read it and it made me think of I Am a Robot. You know, the movie with Will Smith, if you've seen it, phenomenal movie. But it's like, holy crap. Like we're starting to feel where it's like 5 years away where we might genuinely have robots that are out interacting with certain things on like a day-to-day basis. And that is just wild to me to think about. Yo, F5, F10 coming through with the 0.0078. Oh my goodness. Thank you for coming through. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the stream. And we are live over on Abstract. But the opening word within the title for the stream today was the future is multi-chain. And this is the sort of thing that I am going to fall back to, where somebody was asking the cheapest way to get USDC on Solana to USDC on Sui without using a centralized exchange. Now, for the Popkins mint, which is Claynosaurs, which is what this person's image is, they got one of the gold Claynosaurs, so obviously they spent the bag for it or got super lucky during the mint. But I now have to figure out how to engage with Sui if I want to partake in this mint, where I would make the argument, well, I'm down to buy something from Claynosaurz, but how can Claynosaurz make it where whatever wallet, whatever chain I'm on, I just am able to send the funds, it reroutes it, and then spits it out on my address? How are we not at that point yet? And so this is the question about the future of all this stuff on chain. Is it going to be worth it for somebody that's able to sell millions upon millions of something to stay on a single chain? Does it make it worth it for them? And sure, people, I mean, I could not be lazy. I could go out, I could figure it out, similar to what this person is asking. I could type that out. I probably don't even need to type that out. I could just figure it out as is. But why in the world would you want to just stick on a singular chain in the future? Now, I think for the next 2 years, ish, probably totally fine. You're going to have maxis of certain chain, because that's really the big component of everything here on chain, is that, if you're on Abstract, you love Abstract. If you're on Solana, you love Solana. If you're on ETH, you love ETH, etc. But I think we're going to notice more and more offerings of trying to be a little bit more expansive. And Cap saying it's not going to come from DeFi casinos or protocol. It's going to come from entertainment and experiences people want to share, stories they want to be a part of, and we'll give it our best shot. So this is somebody who's on the Claynosaurz team, and I'm not necessarily trying to say, this take is only about Claynosaurz, but as I've said, there's a huge lack of entertainment. All of this stuff is purely based off speculation. Think about when you go and you look at the NFTs you have right now. If you're somebody that has NFTs, maybe you're watching and you don't actually watch any of, or partake in any of the NFT stuff except for watching here and there, but you look at it and you say, all right, here's my NFTs. It shows like the highest offer of something. It's on a generic blank square box of like the image of some sort. Do you feel like proud that you're collecting that? Or you're just like, okay, this is earning me yield. This is going to be something that I have access to a certain chat and community. Is this actually providing me any sort of real entertainment? And I think for 99% of NFTs out there, that's not the case. Now, again, we've gone through all the different shows and the things that are happening, and it's like, yay, when those are going on, it's great, but there's a huge lack of it. And I think that we're almost too caught up within the speculation, which isn't necessarily like a bad thing for certain components. It's just it's the pendulum is swung too far the one way, where it needs to come back a little bit. Yo, Peckham, the man who has no select time of streaming is live. Hell yeah. That's one thing that I, in my head, I'm like, yeah, I should come up with like an exact time to stream. And then I'm like, you know what? I feel like nowadays you just watch things if you want to watch them, right? And if it's live, you say, I'll watch it later. I think sports is still like 50-50 on, you probably want to watch that within the moment, but anything else that's not like dire in the minute, have the video out there. Maybe you like listen. So I listened to Bill Noble a whole bunch on YouTube, and would definitely recommend you guys check him out. But for example, he streams at random times, usually a little bit later at night per se. But normally whenever I go for a drive or go anywhere, I throw him on, and I'm like, so hopefully you guys enjoy the VOD. But Peckham, thank you so much for coming on through. So moving over to some articles that are coming out, maybe a little bit different than your typical tweets, but trends for Web3 advertising. I was going to ask you what you think the trends are. You think you would know off the bat. So ads that live fully on the blockchain are only visible through Web3 browsers. These on-chain ads can offer more transparency, control, and interactivity than traditional Web2 ads. So the key format includes NFTs as ads. These are unique, verifiable promo assets users view or even own. For example, Nike created Crypto Kicks, an NFT-based game where users collected and traded digital sneakers as part of the brand experience. I'm confused, because wasn't the Crypto Kick something that you had to spend like a whole bunch of money on acquiring? Like, so an NFT based game. I don't think that there was any game that was associated. I'm so confused. Hold on. Can we get a little bit of insight here? These Nike Crypto Kick sneakers sold for $130,000. Yeah. So I'm so confused. So we're saying like this is NFTs as ads, and it's an NFT-based game. It feels like this is even wrong to begin with. What do we? Okay, so smart contract ads, smart contracts for ads. These trigger ads are based on specific blockchain actions like wallet activity or token transfers. They can also automate rewards for user engagement. Okay, I don't think I've seen anything of that sort. Decentralized ad spaces. Think ad billboards in the metaverse, bought and sold as tokens or NFTs. These digital spaces live in decentralized apps or virtual worlds and offer advertisers new tradable real estate. This was something that we were like, so sorry, I just realized my head was in the way of that one. But this is something that we thought was going to be massive early days, right? If you think of Zed Run, the horse racing game, there was all this talk of people would be able to own racing arenas. They could throw up advertisements. They could show off whatever. There was a platform called Musea, which I thought was brilliant. I even had a call with the guys out of Vancouver. And then, I don't know, I guess they realized the dev work was way too hard for what they had and got rugged on that. But I guess it is what it is. But the concept with it was that it was like the 1,000 ad homepage. I might not be saying that correctly, but the concept was it was a massive, massive grid, and there was a square, and you could zoom in or you could zoom out, and you could theoretically buy, a 20 by 20 plot of these squares and be able to have a massive advertisement. But the point of it was that if you were new in Web3, you could go to the site and then you could basically look at it like a newspaper and be like, all right, that image looks cool. This ad looks interesting. Here's a section that's about something like this. Because think about it, when you come into Web3, I mean, where do you go? It's like, all right, so you go for like these different exchanges, you get a token, maybe go to certain marketplaces that you've heard of before. But then when you're on those marketplaces, do the descriptions of these NFTs even actually sell you on whatever it is? So like, let's just use like something that's on the front page, pretending I'm like a completely new person and say, okay, so Doodles is like the first thing that pops up. Let me click on this. So it says the collectibles that started it all. Doodles' original collection features 10,000 characters created by co-founder and renowned artist Burnt Toast. I have no idea who Burnt Toast is, but okay, it's a renowned artist. I mean, like, I'm trying to speak as if like I'm a new person, but I know who Burnt Toast is. The generative art was designed with a joyful range of colors, traits, and personalities with 32 hand-drawn unique one-of-ones to round the set out. This doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't tell you there's a TV show. It doesn't tell you that they've worked with McDonald's and all of these other big brands. It doesn't tell you that there's supposed to be a token coming. It doesn't tell you the Dreamscape is coming that is supposed to enhance all of these AI agents and worlds and everything else. So this is what I mean. There is no information unless you are like sunk into the space, going out, doing your own like research, right? And so maybe this is a point where if you're a part of certain teams, like let them know, like update this. I don't know if that description's selling anybody that's new, and for anybody that's in the space, they don't read the description. When was the last time you read a description of something? Of like an NFT collection that you bought? You probably never. I tagged on a recent Time News article on World. Okay, cool. Yeah. I'll go check that out. Are you talking about like on X? JJ Kane, J. Yo, do I not follow you? What the frig? This site is usually chalked. Here's the major announcement last and Sam Altman. How long is the announcement? Okay, 41 minutes, JJ Kane, J. 41 minutes? Are you kidding me? Okay, we'll watch it for like a minute.
Thank you. Wow, it's much more full than last time. Welcome everyone to, at last, the second event of this kind that we're doing. And the last time we met around 6 months ago. And we worked really, really hard on all the products you're going to see today. But before we get there, I think it always matters to just reflect on why we're here, why we think what we do matters, and also why it matters right now.
Yeah, what's up,
so Sam, why don't you kick it off with that?
Yeah, so this is a very cool moment for us. And I was reflecting on 5 years ago when we started talking about this. Alex and I were on a long walk through the city, so it's nice to be back here for this event. And we were talking about what trust in the age of AGI was going to look like. This was way before ChatGPT, but we were both very interested in AI and what that was going to mean as work kept going and we kept progressing towards where we're getting to now. And it became clear to us, or it was clear to us, that there was a need for something like this, that we needed some sort of way for identifying and authenticating humans in the age of AGI. We needed a way that we could know what content was made by a human, by an AI. We wanted a way to make sure that humans stayed special and central in a world where the internet was going to have lots of AI-driven content. We wanted a way to think about how we were going to distribute access to these systems' resources. And we started brainstorming about what that might look like. We had all kinds of new ideas, how you'd have new kinds of social products where you could finally deal with the bot problem, how you could preserve privacy.
Yo, are you? Hell yeah, Beckham.
And we started brainstorming technical solutions. We also talked a lot about the need to include a financial network of some sort. It was clear to us that authentication and proof of humanity was an important component, but it was also clear that one of the most important problems, one of the reasons you needed this, was for people to be able to exchange value, for people and AIs to exchange value, someday for AIs and AIs to do it. And so we started thinking about how we could bring these things together. And the initial ideas were very crazy. Then we came down to one that was just a little bit crazy, which became World. We've got some great progress to share today.
Yeah, and so with these motivations,
Okay, we're 225 into this, and we've learned absolutely nothing. If you're doing speeches ever, note that.
we realized that what we're actually talking about is some version of a real human network. And as Sam mentioned, it will be a combination of proof of human and financial primitives, and maybe even more as we go along. That turned out to be World. And also back then, we came up with a simple plan that actually never really changed, and I don't think it will change in the next 10 years. It had a couple simple steps. The first one was all about building a proof of human system that is truly global, can scale to billions of people, it's privacy preserving.
Okay, we'll read through this. JJ Canadian, we're going to give you a yellow card on not having stuff that we can go over quickly here on the stream. We're going to need you to chat GPT this entire article, and then we can go over that. True. A simple plan to build the real human network. And again, this idea, I think, is going to be a lot more prevalent. But build an anonymous proof of human, launch and distribute ownership through a token to bootstrap network, reach critical scale and show initial utility, decentralize and scale further, reach global scale and bring the benefits of AGI to every human. To every human. That sounds kind of like the whole, we're trying to bank every human. Interesting. Okay, so still going on that trend here, or do we all go through all of that? Yeah, I mean, so I'm still super confused on how the hell this was trending. Like NFTs is ad, there was no games. Like, sure, maybe people like throw shoes on there, but I don't know why the hell they randomly brought up Nike within that. That made zero sense. But other big news within the Web3 landscape, and we've brought up Vibes before, we brought up the Azuki TCG, but one thing that I have not brought up, and a little bit of a shame on me here, is Web3 TCG Splinterlands turned 7. It's been around for 7 years, with over 1 million cards sold in 2025. And then the key takeaways. This is just crazy, right? Over 1 million Splinterland cards have been sold so far this year, with secondary sales volume reaching over 1.7 million, which is phenomenal. Over 99% of Web3 games have failed to launch or close down. And then Splinterland records over 55,000 battles a day on average in 2025. So while some things are sinking, other things are prospering. And that's really, really cool to see. Like it is. But at the same time, we're like, holy crap, there's a lot of things that are going poorly. So checking over on the crypto markets, let's see. Everything looks red, but not down by like a whole lot. Right? All right. Bitcoin at 106.7. ETH at 2.6. Kind of, you notice everything took like an uptick yesterday, and then it's just kind of like falling flat yesterday. I'm curious what happens with the weekend here. But BNB, BNB is still $700. What the hell? At one point, this is, wow, look at that. BNB's basically at all-time highs. Hell yeah. I didn't even realize that. Have you noticed like the timeline just doesn't talk about BNB? I don't know if it's like just the feed or the people I follow, because obviously it's finding success out there, but kind of wild to think about. It's only red because of the Donald news. I'm super confused because there was like 6 reports that came out yesterday of some saying like, yeah, the tariffs are illegal, and then there was a court fighting back, and then there was like a fight back on the fight back, and I was like, I have no idea what the hell's going on. But one thing that is interesting to note, though, is the amount of people that are saying, well, okay, right, if the tariffs go away of any sort, it's just going to be Moon City. So this is the question of, do you want to be sidelined? Do you want to be elsewhere? Oh, and then final thing that I'll leave you with, and this is not my take whatsoever. This is from Bill Noble. But he made a really, really awesome point where the feed and greed index was at like 71, 75 over the length of like the Bitcoin conference in the past couple of days. And he was like, that's only the Bitcoin people. Like, they're having the time of their life. They're loving it. They're thinking things are crazy. Talk to anybody that's in altcoins, and they're not feeling greedy. They're not feeling good. There's nothing there. So the fear and greed index is basically just mimicking whatever the Bitcoin people are. So Bitcoin fear and greed, altcoins probably on the complete other end of the spectrum, which we'll see what happens over the next little bit. For that, as we're heading into the summer, do we see altcoin summer? Maybe, maybe not, but that's going to be it for this edition of XFeed. Thank you guys so much for tuning on in. Just want to give a quick little plug as well. If you're wanting a different sort of light for what we do on content here, we do the RWA Segments podcast, in which you can search that anywhere on a podcasting platform and you'll find it. Or if you're watching on YouTube, you can check the link down below in the description. Or if you follow me on X, if you just click into my bio, you'll be able to see there in the hyperlink. But JJ Kanej, appreciate you coming through. I need to pay more attention to what's going on with like Sam Altman and the world chain. So thank you for bringing that up. And maybe I'll finish watching that video, have a little bit more of a take for that a little bit later. And Tolly, thank you for coming through as usual. And Peckham, I'm really glad that we're able to continue running into each other during these live streams. And FV10, thank you for the 0.0007 ETH. Hell yeah. Enjoy your day, guys. We'll talk soon. Peace.